just trying to get my bearings. People will be trickling in. So we're going to start by praying, and then we'll find ourselves in Galatians and see where we situate bullying in the context of wisdom, technology, and all of that. So, dear Jesus, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here to talk about these things that are so prevalent in society and it's so important for us, especially those of us who are parents and hoping to be parents, to be prepared, or those that work with children in any way, that they will be ready to act and to respond before, during, and after a situation. I thank you for being in Jerry, bless our conversation this morning, and help us, Lord, give us wisdom to know how to deal with things. We pray for those things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so I'll apologize for this. I don't have a place to hang that. So the first thing I want us to think about is going back to Galatians 5. I on purpose skipped a couple verses so we could, when I was talking about it before, so we could focus on them today. It's not news to anyone who is walking and breathing that there is conflict, right? We deal with conflict, internal conflict, external conflict. There's conflict in how we feel about ourselves. There's conflict about how we think about other people. There's conflict in how we deal with other people, from things we say to things we do, about ourselves and about others. And Paul is talking to the Galatians, and there's a lot of issues happening in the church with the disagreement. Remember, we talked about it. Some people are saying, you have to circumcise, and the others are like, no. What do we do here? And they, instead of talking about things and holding on to the things, they're fighting. Like, there is a lot of conflict going on. So Paul tells them, look, if you're fighting and defiling one another, watch out that you won't be consumed, right? And then later on, as he's working through the works of the flesh and through the Spirit, he gives a long list of interpersonal issues that can come up. He talks about enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, and things like this. And today we'll be talking about things like this. Because we are human beings, and at any part of our experience in relationship with others, we catch ourselves sometimes provoking one another, sometimes envying one another. If you've never said something to a person on purpose to see them, like when you're upset with someone and you say something that you know is going to hurt them, it's going to provoke them to a response, like we do that. And sometimes we do that out of self-protection. We feel hurt, and then we respond with something that is hurtful to. And then those things are ways that our flesh works out, right? And when we're talking in the context of technology, you don't need to go far. Which one of us are like in Instagram or Facebook or Twitter? Are we there? One of those places? Have you ever heard about the Facebook wars? Someone posts something and everyone has an opinion to give about it. And then you get, like, there's one comment that has like 300 replies, and there's only 2 people going at it, and fighting. That's one way that our conflict, or our tendency to conflict, shows up in technology, right? Or we see someone post something, and then there's so many people that they call it the haters, right? They have to respond to whatever the person posted about their life. They'll say, I am breastfeeding my child, and then 20 moms say, oh, you were, shaming all the moms that don't breastfeed. And the guy says, look at my meal card, I'm so excited about, I'm tuning it up, I'm adding this thing or taking that thing out, and then the other guys are like, that guy is not that, it does whatever. And then you see those comments and you're like, what's going on? That's it. It's the works of the flesh being evident. our natural tendency is not to step back and be pacifiers. I hope that's it. It's not a pacifier though.
Pacifist.
Pacifists. Thank you. As you can see, English and I have a very interesting relationship. So, since we're talking about, this is a family ministries class, of course, so we'll always be looking for the ways, the things we're talking about interact with our kids, the kids we work with, our grandkids. We're trying to figure out ways that as a family of all ages and stages, we can be prepared for those things. And one of the ways that we see conflict showing up, especially in technology nowadays, is bullying. So I invited Amy and Jerry Wells. They're both teachers in the public school system. They can tell more about themselves. To talk to us about it because of their experience. Recently we were talking about it and they were sharing about how this has been popping up in school, and it was like, come talk to us. So we will go through a couple of the things and then we're going to have some time for questions, okay? So let me sit down. Take this thing out of here. So good morning and thank you for being here with us. So I'll start with talk about yourselves first, introduce yourselves before we jump into the topic.
Hi, my name is Amy Wells. So I have been teaching music in public schools since my 25th year. So I've actually covered from preschool all the way to 12th grade. I've covered most of it. I taught high school and middle school just 1 year. That was enough for me. I've been in the elementary schools most of my time in 4th and 5th grade, which is where I am now. So all in Cyberbullying, New Jersey, so a local area.
My name is Jerry Wells. I'm in year 29 of teaching. I've taught as young as 4th grade and up as high as college. So most of my career has been in middle school, where it's the fun years. Looking to change the fun.
So let's start with a simple definition of what's bullying.
So, I mean, there are some great slides up here, but bullying is, it can be verbal, it can be an action, and it can be electronic communication. Anything that is meant to demean, intimidate, or just make fun of a person. And it's like sort of legal definitions tend to go towards. It's directed at an attribute of that person, usually that they cannot change. So it could be physical appearance, it could be real or perceived ethnic background, religious background, racial background. It might be a disability, whether cognitive or physical. It could be real or perceived gender identity or sexual preference. So some of these different traits that are just part of who a person is. So it's some sort of harassment and intimidation directed at who and what a person is.
So let's go through some examples. So let's start with, so we said, we'll try to split in 4 areas because it's easier, I think, for us to visualize. So we'll start with the physiological, verbal, and cyberbullying. So let's start with physical. What are some of the ways that bullying presents itself?
Well, that's just there. So this is when you're on the blacktop and somebody decides to push or shove, they get mad. Usually over a football game. That's our big culprit. They like to throw the football around. Lots of aggression.
Verbal bullying. This is the one that I think we're more. When we think bullying, I think that's the first thing that we think about, right? Something someone's saying. They probably is one of the most common ones. But it could be teasing or cracking or something like that. And then psychological. Intimidating someone, manipulating someone, spreading rumors about someone. Like, I'm not talking directly to the person and name calling, but they are spreading rumors about the person. And then cyberbullying, which is the one that will be focused today. So tell us about cyberbullying.
cyberbullying obviously is taking place online somehow. So this might be on phones with direct messages, it might be on message boards, it might be on social media posts, pictures that are shared, rumors that are shared. So, lots of different platforms that might happen by, and it's, it's including all of those other bullying behaviors. So obviously you can't physically push someone online, but there are threats of physical violence. A lot of that psychological bullying tactics, so the name calling, the rumors, exclusion is a really big one, and the emotional stuff. So all of it sort of takes the best of all of those bullying tactics and then puts them online.
One of the things that I think we're going to eventually go into that's really extra harmful with the cyberbullying is that for some kids it doesn't stop. I don't know, and I'm going to get into this later, but if you've ever had a situation in your lives when you were bullied by somebody, if it didn't deal with cyberbullying, maybe somebody called your name, had a kid in second grade just poking me lead pencils. That stopped as soon as I left that child or I left that situation. The cyberbullying, unfortunately, it continues and continues and continues and continues through the night. And the poor person that's dealing with this is dealing with it on a constant basis compared to what it was like when. And then as soon as you walk away, right?
So let's spend some time, take a break, and think about your experience in school or church or growing up or with your friends. Think about your experience. Did you ever went through any of this? Or you name called or threatened or you mean in some way? To have any experience that was hurtful, your childhood that involved that kind of interaction. Think about it and share with the person that you're sitting with, because I think this helps us to connect with the situation. So think about it. A minute for you, then share something with the person next to you that you either saw or experienced back when you were in school.
how many of you felt that you were bullied? So at one point in your life, you had someone going after you. All right. So here's the next question, which could be fun. How do you feel that you have been a bully? Yeah, that was a question that just popped in my head. I was like, you're at church. We're good people, right? And the purpose of this is dealing with the children, our children, and how we can help them with bullying. And there has to be a bully. And we might have the bully child. We may have been the bully too. And it's one of those things that we have to recognize that in ourselves. I realize being a teacher gives me a weird platform that I could easily fall into a bullying situation. I'm a music teacher, band director. There was a movie that came out called Whiplash. If you saw where the teacher was like majorly beating up his students, and it wasn't physical. It was all mental, and I could see myself easily going down that path of like getting on a kid to get them to perform better and to be better in this particular outlet of music making and become a bully. I don't do that. But I have seen those traits like start to creep up that it's like, okay, I've had to reevaluate how I work with my students. I changed how I ask questions. For example, as a music person, I look at it and say, okay, it's easy to be down on yourselves in my job as a music person and say, okay, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. And a lot of teachers and parents can fall into that place. But I turned the question around of like, okay, what did you do right? And I don't ask it that way snarky. I was like, what did you feel that was good about what you did? And then what could we have done to have done it better? So I've been trying to change my terminology in class so that I am not bullying the children into playing as perfectly as I want them to. But I can totally see in my job, in my profession, that it could come across as bullying to a child, especially maybe a child that's not getting it right away. So yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that question. I wanted to find out.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that stays with us. So we were sharing, and I was talking about when I was in 5th grade, and my last names were Ferreira Lansky, and I had this boy in my class, William. I still remember his name. And I remember that he would call me Lindsay Ferrari lunch. Because I ate a lot, I always had seconds, and it's a public school in Brazil, so we were served a meal during break, even though our classes were like just morning or just afternoon. So you either have like 3 periods, a meal, and 2 periods, or 2 periods, a meal, and 3 periods. So everyone had at least one full meal. That's part of the public school system in Brazil. And I used to eat too. I always got seconds. It's just once. I still today, but I still do seconds. So he would always sing the song every time I got up to get seconds. Like basically, the song says, "Lindsay Ferrari Lanchi. Fahari doesn't walk anymore because she's getting 2 servings of lunch." Basically, that was it. And I'm 36. I was in 5th grade. 5th grade is what, 11? It's been 25 years, and I still can sing the song in my head. Every time I have seconds, that song still plays. And it stays with us. Even if it was an experience that it wasn't shared. So like, it's not something that followed me for many years. We were all in the same class in 5th grade, but it followed me. Now we're talking about cyberbullying. You don't leave it there, right? Because we're in this online environment And then if your life is out, it's there forever. Something that is posted online, something that is shared online. Think about a teenager that got a private photo posted online, like a photo that was taken in the lockers, right? That they wanted to wear off. And the girls are now teasing her because of that picture. The picture's there, right? They don't have an option. Or a meme that is posted and then shared that, you know, I was watching a series the other day and there was a little girl, they put beers on her and they shared the picture all over the school and everyone started calling her the beer lady, right? And that sticks with you, and then like that meme is out there, right? And then the girl will always have to deal with the beer lady meme, right? So in that sense, cyberbullying has a long-lasting effect. So let's talk a little bit about the consequences of bullying, so we can understand how cyberbullying looks in the large picture.
I'm a researcher, like not by profession, that's my personality. So I'm going to start with an article, and then I'm going to then talk about just sort of some anecdotal things. So this was a British journal, Pediatrics and Child Health, but they report that the effects of bullying, the cyberbullying, it does increase with the duration and the severity of it, but effects on the child being bullied can include decline in academic performance. The children may begin acting out, so showing some negative behaviors, and some report difficulties at home, arguments and fights with parents. They're also at an increased risk for depression, clinical depression, anxiety, externalized negative behaviors, and in more severe cases, an increased risk of suicide. So that is for the child that's being bullied. They also spoke about children who are the bullies. So they often feel a lack of remorse, and these negative behaviors lead to other consequences, such as possibly police contact, as it continues, property damage, school absenteeism. So these bullying behaviors can be linked to other negative behaviors, low grades, and even the cyberbullies themselves may be at an increased risk of suicide as well. This may go along with sort of the why of why they're bullying. So this is sort of the research. In my personal experience, so I see 4th and 5th graders every day. These are 9, 10-year-olds around that age. And they are, they're still children, they're still little babies. I think about it sometimes. I don't see them when they're in kindergarten, but they're not that far removed from our little babies in kindergarten. They want to be so grown up in 4th and 5th grade. But I don't think there's a child that isn't touched by bullying. If it's not them, then who is being bullied is their friend, or they've heard it, they've been party to it while people are making fun of each other, they have a story about it. People who are sad, upset all the time, they walk into school and they dread being there because they know they have to deal with difficult people. It makes it hard for them to learn, because how are you going to concentrate on your fractions lesson when you're really worried about what that girl in the back row is going to say about you online, or that picture that circulated, or whatever happened. And some of the problems seem very silly to us, like, what, they called you smelly, who cares, you're not smelly. We can say that and dismiss it as grown-ups, but it means everything to them. That acceptance in a friend group is very, very important, becoming more and more important at the age students I have, and then it just increases throughout middle school. So anecdotally, I think it touches everyone.
As I'm listening and reading like the list of the results of bullying, from was it depression, decline in academic performance, academic outcomes, stuff like that. As teachers, we go through this training every single year of different things, from bullying to abuse to trying to help somebody if they have a anaphylactic issue. It's abuse. It's abuse. One, if we think about a parent abusing a child, there are signs that you can see. If they're being abused from an adult that's outside of the home, there are signs that you can see, and they match up quite well. So basically, it is another form of abuse, and as parents, we need to try to see it as best we can. see everything. You know, life is in there and gets in the way sometimes. But trying to be mindful, trying to be cognizant, trying to have a communication with your child, or like if you're working with children, say in church or in other areas, try to see them and hear them, because sometimes these things will come out, and like I don't think this young man is dealing with abuse, but I have a student his academics are all kind of waning. So that's one of the things, like when I see things like that happen, like the antenna goes up, and I'm like trying to see, okay, is there something else going on that's causing this issue? So if you happen to see this at home with your child, you know, think about it. And what Amy said a few months ago, this is your child is smelling. It does seem minor to you, but just imagine your boss telling you, you know what, if you come late one more time, you're going to get fired. You're going to have a serious feeling about that. It's very, very serious to you, because that can mean your whole life. Like, it's like, how are you going to keep going? And so that's going to be having in your mind. Your child thinking about how smelly they are or not, that's weighing just as equal. And it's easy to dismiss it as an adult, because it's just like, go shower. You know, it's like, you might be okay, you didn't shower, it's go shower. You know, and it's we have to remember that they are experiencing stuff that's just as intense as the stuff that's intense to us.
And I think that it's another point to what we talked last week. From the 3 tactics of how to help your child to prevent them from accessing pornography, but also help them to deal if they get to see it. We gave you basically three resources. The first one is, first thing we need to be active is in parental mediation, which we said is the parent consistent presence and interaction with the child. What's going on? Get to know them, spend time with them, ask them, who are your friends? What do you do? How do you connect? What do you see online? Which apps are they allowed or not to have on the phone? Why do they want to be there? What do they see? We know that a lot of bullying happens sometimes in apps, right? That are supposed to be places of sharing your life, but then you're also sharing other things there. That's a place where bullying is happening. So parental mediation is the first step, because no matter what happened, a parent is connected to the child and will help them process what's going on. And the second thing we said was digital education. So sitting with your child, talking to them about how to behave online, how to respond to someone, how to stand up to someone that is doing something. And I think this is part of the fact sheet that I shared with you from Stop Bullying, or it has a little bit of guidance on digital education. How do you teach your child how to behave digitally, how to be part of that? Because online is a whole new world, right? How do we teach our children to behave there? And part of the reason, since mediation, having an adult mediated situation is so important, this is part of the reason why we talk so much here at church about having plenty of adults in children's lives. Like, we make sure that our classes are small, and that we have 2, sometimes 3 adults in each class, so that the kids are having smaller time, they're sitting with their leaders, and they're talking about their lives, they're praying together, because you have an adult, either your parent or another adult that's in your life. Does your children know that there are other adults that they can go to? Do you connect to them and say, hey, you know, if you don't want to talk to mom and dad about something, you can always go to uncle, auntie, grandma, grandpa, dad, Sunday school teacher, or someone that you trust, that they know that they can go to, because it's so important to have adults helping them mediate that. I think part of it is what teachers do too. Teachers are, quite often, because they are in the school setting, which is where most of the bullying is happening, or the source, because this is kids' main source of social interaction. So if bullying isn't a social interaction issue, that would make a lot of sense. So tell us a little bit about what's your experience as a teacher, and what kind of things you've seen, but also part of like how teachers respond to it. Because I think many parents don't know what are the teacher's responsibility, or what they're supposed to do, or what can they expect of the teachers to do, or if they have a situation, you know, where they don't know how to talk to the teacher.
Yeah, So there's sort of two levels, as teachers, we're interacting with students every day. So one of the big things that we really think about is building relationships. And actually schools, one of the good things to come out post-COVID is that there's more emphasis and realization of how important those relationships are. So I know schools are building in a lot more time. We have a homeroom time they call morning meeting, and it's just about sharing and, thinking through different issues. So the students and teachers can really build a relationship together. Because if there's not a relationship, how do we learn together? So on the front lines, we are listening to when students come to us or responding, sort of trying to advise, in the same way that a parent would. So I have a lot of kids who will come to me and they're upset about something, and we can talk about it. Hey, this person's really being, mean to you. Are they being a good friend to you right now? No, they're not really. Great. Do you have some people in your life who are good friends? You should focus on those friendships. If someone's being mean to you, their opinion doesn't matter. And that doesn't always make it not hurt. But those are some of the pieces of advice that we have. So those individual relationships. But really, it's about what students share with us. We observe some things, just there in the classroom or on the blacktop. But the cyberbullying, we aren't going to see that. So we respond to what we can, and sometimes students will open up and tell us those things. But it's going on online. We don't always see all those things. Now, kind of going in the more administrative level, where schools intervene with disciplinary action or things like that. Again, this is something that would need to be reported either by students, so students can report what's happening to them or that this is happening to their friend, and then guidance counselors or principals can talk to all the students and sort of investigate. Or parents. Parents can initiate that as well. So a parent phone call, hi, my student, my kid had messages on Snapchat last night saying that, she's a three-toed sloth and we're very upset about it, and here are the names of the people involved. And then, the principal can, or again, principal if it's something where it needs to be disciplinary, like an action, a discipline action, or guidance counselor can then pull in all the students involved. I know my vice principal had shared that someone had gotten a mean message from another child who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. They really want to know if he could call that parent in Atlanta, Georgia to set up a meeting. He was like, I don't think that's really my jurisdiction. So it does need to involve the students in the school. There are, the Department of Education does have a definition and guidelines about what we HIV, intimidation and bullying. So in order to initiate sort of paperwork, it's something that's pervasive, the child feels threatened, it interrupts their emotional well-being, it interrupts their learning, and it's reported by parents or students, then we follow a certain chain of command where it goes to guidance counseling, it goes to the principal, it's reported to parents, and paperwork is filed so that if there are more incidents in the future. So there's that sort of official chain of command. New Jersey has a pretty strong HIV policy, but really, more likely it's that day-to-day speaking to students in the classroom.
So let's talk a little bit about parental responsibility also. So how do we step in as parents? And then I would add there, grandparents or teachers, I know, for example, what is our policy here, how do we respond when we see something. We have incident reports that have to be filled out. We call both parents to talk to both. We talk to the kids first, and we talk to parents. Parents are always called in. They know what's happening, whatever happened in class, from misbehavior to non-positive interaction with another child, be something like 2-year-old chewing on a friend's arm to, a seventh grader, saying something inappropriate about another child. So we always intervene, we always bring the parents in because, again, we believe that parents are primary disciple makers, right? We will intervene and we'll try to support the child, but the parents' responsibility is there and we have to honor that. So let's talk about the parents' responsibility, and it's in both cases. How do you talk to a parent of a bullied child or a child that has been bullied? Let's talk a little bit about that.
I told you I like to research, so I found this really great resource. It was actually from the Annapolis Police Department page. They had some advice too. But the number one most critical safeguard is knowing what your child is doing online, what they are accessing, what's happening. So I think it's very important to, and obviously this changes in different ages, right? So a lot of times older students or older kids are going to have more access, more unsupervised access to chats and social media posting things. With younger children, you're making sure that what the websites, the video they watch, or the app they use is appropriate. But as they get older, they want that sense of privacy. But I think it's really important as a parent to make clear that I'm here to keep you safe. And just like when you were 4 and really wanted to play in the road, and I wouldn't let you do that because now you understand that's not safe. As much as you want this, I will be involved in seeing what is on your phone. I reserve the right to take your phone and read your messages if I need to, if there's a problem. And we're upfront about that, and that.
I remember something that Brian said last week. He said, a child's right to protection always supersedes their right to privacy.
Yeah, so being involved in knowing what apps they have and what they are using. It may take some research because they're always coming up with something new, right? Just when you think, okay, Twitter. Oh, wait, no, Twitter's not the thing anymore. Apparently with my 4th and 5th graders, the big one is Snapchat. I speak with my vice principal. Almost every cyberbullying problem that comes up recently has been Snapchat. So it's a messaging service. And the unique thing about Snapchat is that messages are deleted after a short amount of time. So the only way you have sort of a paper trail or proof of these things is if you take a screenshot. There is also a notification that tells the other person if you take a screenshot of their conversation, which intimidates the children. They're like, well, if I take a screenshot, they're going to come back and say, why are you screenshotting me? Are you trying to get me in trouble? So it's really very problematic. I would recommend no Snapchat at all, personally. Some things it's just hard to use safely. So being involved, there is of course blocking and monitoring software, but especially as they get older, the kids are really able to get around that. They learn new ways of getting around it. And then the other piece of advice from the Annapolis Police Department is that making sure that the kids know they can come to you. And that's hard sometimes for parents because when something happens, and especially if they've done something wrong, it's so hard not to just have that blow-up moment of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that, I taught you better than that. But if they know they're going to get that judgment and that explosion, they're not going to tell you. So it's having the conversation, preemptively having conversations. Hey, how's it going? How are your friends? What kinds of things are you talking about? What sorts of things do you discuss? But then, when this happens, I want you to come to me. This actually ties in with Michael's sermon. There is nothing that you can do that is a step too far. There is nothing that will ever change my love for you, and there's nothing that will ever change God's love for you, and we can always work through it. So making sure you're there to listen. Also, teaching your kids empathy, so that if they're not the bully, they can also stand up to bullying. What does it mean to be empathetic, to understand others? Which again, I was kind of smiling as we listened to the sermon about we're all image bearers of Christ, and every other person that you interact with every day is an image bearer of Christ. Making sure they have someone to talk to, like you mentioned, and say about, because it may be a Sunday school teacher or another adult. And then teaching kids how to stand up to bullying. It's scary because they don't want to become the target of the bully, but they can stop it. If they hear a rumor, don't spread it. That's a big piece of that. I spend a lot of my lunch duty time running around saying, I know that there's this rumor going around. Can you please be a good friend? And when you hear it, say, I'm not talking about that. That's not my business. So being the one to stop that line of rumors is a huge, huge difference.
And the really cool statistic is that for the cyberbullying that has been reported, or bullying in general, 53% of the times someone stands up. So the kids are learning about it and they're learning to stand up. It's like more than half of the times that they're seeing this happening. They're standing up, even if it means saying, like, stop that, that's not nice. Not every time it means that they're calling a teacher and asking for large consequences, but just the fact that kids are learning to stand up. So that's another thing that we can teach children, like, how do you stand up? What kind of thing can you say? What are the ways that you can deal with it? Like, go tell the teacher, right? Go tell the teacher.
There's
you know what to do before that happens.
Yeah, so it can be scary. scary for them to say anything to the bully themselves. Yeah, go find a trusted adult. The last things, I know I've been talking a bunch, this I guess goes specifically to the child who is doing the bullying, you know. And sometimes they may not initiate, it may be that there's a joke going around and they just spread it because they want to be part of the group. I find this in any behavior. When I come across a child in my classroom that is showing a negative behavior, the first thing I want to do is ask the why. Why are you doing this? And maybe they can't answer that question, but I want to look at where it comes from. You know, a child that bullies, most of the time, they are doing it because of their own insecurity. They're insecure about something, so they want to direct attention away from themselves. Or it's to feel accepted and part of a group. You know, that's a deep, you know, anthropological human need, that we need to be part of a group. So if everyone is laughing at this one kid, I gotta do it too, or else I'm excluded. And sometimes, so it's peer pressure, it's their insecurity. So finding out that why and talking about that with your child, you know, you are loved and you are accepted, and you don't have to be part of this. Find true friends. Find the friends that lift you up. A friend that encourages you to do good things. A friend that's telling you to do the wrong thing is not your friend. So I think that's really important.
And I remember something that we talked about last week, which is the, gosh, it just went right away. We're talking about the bullying, there you go. Sorry, my brain just went whoops. But yeah, this idea that we can give the children the ability to deal with something before it shows up. And I think often, in many of the situations that we are exploring, like the one we talked last week about pornography, or these week talking about cyberbullying, we don't want to bring up those bad things out, but it means that if you were teaching your child about that before they encounter that, before they see a situation. So maybe even a 6, 7, 8-year-old has the ability to say no, and has the ability to recognize what is right or wrong. I mean, your child learned to say no when they were like toddlers. You will tell them, pick up the toys, no, eat your food, no. So like, they know how to say no. Like working with them. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. And the punishment piece. It is so easy for us to see a child doing something. Or even if your child was not the original bully, he participated or she participated, it's so easy for us to go straight into punishment mode, right? But I love the thought that when God created human beings, He didn't, the Bible doesn't start in Genesis 3, right? God said, this is good. God created every human being in His image and said, this is so good. Who your children has this understanding, not just that they are sinful and that people are sinful, but they have this deep understanding that God made them good, that God approved them in their eyes, that God made them to look like Him, and they have this good feel of humanity. And then yes, we all sin, all of us are fallen, and all of us sin. But that doesn't take away the fact that they were all made good in the image of God. And then being made in the image of God means that you're valuable, that you were precious, and that's a good thing. And then we need to look to other people like that. So even when you come to talk to your child, and guide them, yes, there might be a consequence to their behavior. They might have consequences in school. But can we help them understand? Going back to the wife again, help them understand before we give them the punishment where they're failing. They're failing because they're failing to see that God made that person just like them in His image, very valuable. And that helps them have that vision about themselves, but also in their interaction with others, see that also.
And that was actually when we were sharing stories about when we had been made fun of in our lives, the thought came to me that at those times, and I even hold on to some of these things now, I let someone else tell me what I was worth, and I believed the world instead of believing what God told me, because God told me that I'm a child of God. Mm-hmm. And so when we have a child who is being bullied, and they're so heartbroken, that may be a reminder that, this is who another human being says you are, but God says you are His precious child. child. You are my precious child. You are loved and you are a wonderful creation and God has amazing plans for you. So whose word are you going to believe? You're going to believe the almighty creator who said you're amazing? Or are you going to believe, Scotty Hudson over there who said you smell funny? I mean, come on. So, yeah.
Any questions so we can wrap up? Or any last thoughts that you want to share? Sure.
You talked about an age when a child should be on their own without going on. Is that age 60 or is that 50? How do you decide?
There's some people that are 50 that you should have known. So I say that I'm sorry.
I think to say that there's a definite age for people to be able to be unfettered. I think for with your child, you just have to train them as best you can and hope and pray that they're making good choices. I think as long as they're minors, that you have a responsibility to monitor everything that they do. Legally, when they hit 18, victims are, so they should have some freedom there. But as long as they're under your roof and I guess under the legal age, they should be subject to be monitored.
I was going to ask, I do feel that from what I see as an educator, it is happening way too early. There is no reason why my 4th and 5th graders should all have phones and that they should all be on Snapchat. They do not have the emotional skills and decision-making skills to deal with what's being presented to them. And they are falling into these traps that they're not ready for. And it's really, really hard because when your mom and dad and your kid is crying that they're being left out of everything because they don't know what their friends are doing online, it's so hard to be the bad guy. It's so, and they will tell you are ruining their life. It's really, really hard to say no because it's so important in today's society. I will say that our 15, almost 16-year-old did thank me recently that she didn't have access to everything in middle school because she was really glad not to be in the middle of the drama, so they do realize it eventually, but it's really hard.
I also think that, and that's the part where the only tip that I give is not just parental mediation, it's digital education. You have to do both at the same time. So as they are learning, and they show you, because you are interacting with their participating, as they show you that they are using the phone properly. So for example, I would probably give a middle schooler, high schooler a phone if they need contact because they have practice or something. And I might start with a phone that has texting and calling capacity. And then I'll talk to them about what they're texting their friends. I might even have a copying app on my phone, that I can see what they're texting, right? Okay, they are showing that they're having good conversation, positive conversation, they're using the phone responsibly. Okay, or do they look like they can do the next step? So that may mean that they will be able now to be, I don't know, whatever website it is that they want to be Instagram, let's say. So let's just start with Instagram. So you're going to follow them on Instagram. You're going to see what they're posting. You're going to be added to their close friends so you can see all, that. And then you tell them, this is temporary. You're going to access through the computer, not on your phone, because I want to see how you're doing. And then they show you well. And they show you that they are interacting well, they're following good things, because you can see who they're following if you follow them. And they're like, okay, you were showing that you have the maturity to do it on your own. Okay, then you're going to be able to use this on your phone, but I still get your phone once it's dinner time, and you pick it up in the morning, right? So you start creating, give them freedom as they show you that they've been developing the ability to do something. The problem is that if we don't talk to our children first, if we don't prepare them to what they're going to find, and then we give them access to this whole world. Like, you don't let your child go downtown, New York City, on their own when they're 12, 13, 14, 15, even 16, if they don't know how to take public transportation. if they don't know how to make purchases, if they don't know how to, so like we give children skills and teens skills before we give them a task. So I feel like it's important for us as parents and teachers and leaders to make sure that we're giving them the skills first and then giving them the responsibility. Thank you very much. Next week we'll have our last class. We'll be talking about body image and the issues related to this. Okay? Thank you very much. I know we're